Little girl's astonishing revelation to a U.S. Marine. I'm digging to bury my mom and brother. Jake had only just stepped into the park, a place where laughter used to ring bright and pure, when he caught sight of her. The little girl, perhaps 7 or 8, was kneeling in the dirt, her small hands tirelessly clawing at the hard earth. He felt the knot in his chest tighten, an instinctive response born from the weight of a war-heavy past, buzzing just beneath the surface. He recalled the echoes of chaos, gunfire, and anguish that seemed to shadow him wherever he went, even here in a town that should have felt like home. Approaching her, the afternoon sun cast long shadows, deepening his trepidation over the secrets this town seemed to harbor now. "Hey there," he said, forcing himself to sound casual. "What are you digging for?" The girl looked up, dirt smudged across her cheeks, eyes bright and oddly intense. "I'm digging to bury my mom and brother." The air around them seemed to still. It was a bullet straight to his heart. For a split second, a silence bore down on him, threatening to swallow his sanity whole. How could one so young face such brutality? Did she know how much her words cut? The rawness of her grief sent shivers rippling through him. Thinking back to the comrades that he lost, to the hollow spaces left where laughter and life should have resided, he felt an inexplicable connection pulling him towards her. Heart racing, he wanted to recoil, to shy away from the heavy truths swirling thick in the air. Who was he to interfere? Barely a week back from his tour, he still staggered under the weight of his own burdens. He took a breath, though, squaring his shoulders. He could either walk away or step in. Wasn't that what he had signed up for? To protect? To serve? Wasn't this a new mission? But with every passing moment, the specter of failure tightened its grip. Failures he could not erase, losses that still echoed in his mind. "Lily," she said, as if reading the confusion in his mind. "They aren't coming back." A pit opened in Jake's stomach. She said it so matter-of-factly, as if she had already calibrated her grief to the point of routine. He felt himself hesitating, becoming acutely aware of his own powerlessness. What could he offer her? Words seemed woefully inadequate. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications, so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." He forced himself to focus on her, digging deeper not just into the earth, but into the emotions sloshing around in his chest. "What happened to them?" he finally asked, heart racing as he braced for a response. He feared what he might learn. Fear clawed at him like an unseen beast. Each revelation felt like another layer to a bizarre puzzle he had no intention of being in. It shouldn't feel like this. He should walk away. But the thought of leaving Lily there, alone with her sorrow, felt like failure, a betrayal of his own shattered ideals. As she shared the details of the horrific accident, a visceral anger ripped through him. The town's neglect, the systemic flaws, were those the same demons that haunted his sleep nightly? The realization twisted in his gut, threatening to suffocate him. Could he really allow these injustices to continue? But what recourse did he have? With every word, he felt the weight of expectation settle on his shoulders. He was just one man, scarred and still trying to piece together his own sanity. And yet, here he was, standing on the precipice between duty and ethical ambiguity. Feeling the layers of his past battles collide with new responsibilities, Jake wondered if he could genuinely protect her, shield her from the unfolding storm that chaos would inevitably bring. As the sun dipped lower, casting an amber glow that wrapped around them, he felt the line get more blurred, more inhospitable, between right and wrong. With every piece of her broken story that formed in the air, the pressure spiked again, sharp and demanding. Could he uncover the truth for her? What if it led to crashing realities that could destroy lives? As doubt flooded his mind, he stayed rooted beside her, wrestling the fierce swirl of emotions. Together they dug, the stakes rising higher with every scoop of dirt. But as darkness loomed closer with every turn of the hour, Jake found himself spiraling deeper into the moral quagmire, stewing in uncertainty about the road ahead. Could he honor Lily's family and confront the very forces that threatened to pull them apart? He stood there, on the knife's edge of fate, the weight of the world on his shoulders, wondering what secret shadows still awaited them. The warm hues of the sunset bathed the park in a gentle, deceptive calm, yet within Jake, a storm was brewing. The fleeting connection he felt to Lily transcended the raw sadness of her words. It was a reminder of all he had lost, his fallen comrades, their unfulfilled lives lingering in his consciousness like specters refusing to fade. He glanced down at her innocent face, a stark contrast to the turmoil of emotion swirling inside him. He had come back to find peace, yet there was none here. "Lily," he began again, his voice trembling just slightly, "why are you digging here?" The question felt insufficient, but he needed to anchor himself to the task, to prevent being overwhelmed. He fought against the weight pulling him deep into his own memories, memories that haunted him in relentless cycles. "Because they loved this spot," she replied, her small fingers moving rhythmically through the soil. "They used to bring me here to play. This is where we were happy." The truth hit him like a punch. The park wasn't just a random locale for her grieving. It was a shrine of joy, now overtaken by loss. It reflected his own post-war existence, places he and his brothers had fought to protect, now littered with ghosts of the past. The more he understood her, the more the familiar ache escalated. "This park feels different now," he commented softly, feeling the grass beneath his boots, as if grounding himself in its familiarity. "Sometimes we change, and the places we remember change with us." It struck him too late that he was projecting his own internal shifts onto her, assuming shared understanding. "I can keep it from changing," she asserted, her hands still laboring, her brow furrowed in concentration. "If I bury them here, then they'll always be with me." Her determination encased him in silence, and he felt a surge of admiration mixed with despair. Should he support her in this ritual, however misguided, or lift her from this spiral of loss? Each choice intermingled with his past, shadows illustrating what was righteous and what could lead to deeper wounds. He felt the pressure of her fragility, even as he grappled with his own, the boundaries between their grief blurring uncomfortably. "Maybe it's time to find a new way to remember them, something that celebrates their life," he suggested, searching for the right words. "A guiding light in the dark labyrinth of grief. You could plant something here too, something that grows. That way, every time you come, you'll see life blooming." Her small hands paused, dirt falling from her fingers as she processed his words. For a moment, her gaze wandered to the horizon, contemplating the future despite the weight of past tragedies. Hope fluttered between them, fragile but alive. What Jake hadn't anticipated was how her gaze resurfaced a bit of his own lost hope, gilded around the edges with memories of resilience and fighting spirit. He had learned resilience on the battlefield. It was something that dangled just outside reach now, buried beneath his trauma. Yet here he stood, realizing maybe he could arise anew, not just for himself, but for Lily too. "What do you think?" He pressed gently, wanting her to navigate her own feelings. "Would a tree, or a flower, something alive, help you remember their love?" As she considered his words, he felt a stirring within, a flicker of unspent potential igniting in his chest. The longer he stayed connected with her, the more self-reflection emerged. Wasn't he too a seed hiding beneath layers of dirt, desperately needing a chance to bloom? But doubt clawed at him again. What if that journey led him to places of painful revelation, or conflicting truths? The old wounds felt more like chains than reminders of bravery, and as Lily gazed up with wide eyes, it dawned on him that the next step was critical, a choice that would chart the course of not just her healing, but his as well. For too long, he had felt like a shadow in his own life, burdened by unresolved questions. The path lay ahead somewhere in the murky fog. But could he find the courage to confront his past, while lighting the way for Lily's future? Inside the depths of his worry, another thought caught his attention, sharp and stunning. a question that could redefine their course. What if we uncover the reasons they aren't coming back? What if we search for the truth together? As Lily's expression darkened, an unsettling weight enveloped them both, a knife's edge trembling under the escalating tension. Jake realized the journey ahead could lead him into confrontations with buried memories, a relentless search for accountability, and perhaps a reckoning with a past that still clawed at him at night. He had made a choice, and like a newly planted seed, the future remained uncertain but filled with possibility. The important truths they might unveil could break open something far greater than what either of them anticipated. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the park grew dimmer, shadows stretching like fingers grasping at the remnants of light. Jake felt an unsettling shift in the air, the kind that preceded a storm. He was teetering on a precipice, both terrified and exhilarated by the unknown. Lily's innocent yet burdensome task began to weigh heavily on him. "What do you mean burying them?" he managed to ask, each word tasting like ash on his tongue. Even as he questioned her, he felt his heart pound, a visceral connection that resonated beyond their age gap. She was poised at the edge of a grief that he had danced around for years, and her response could plunge him deeper into the quagmire of his own losses. "I need to bury them so they can come back." Her voice was steady, another layer of innocence entangled in her fragile desperation. "If I dig here, maybe I can keep the bad parts away, help them find their way back." Internal alarms rang out in Jake's mind. Her words stirred the echoes of his own past, decisions made in the heat of combat that had left irrevocable scars on his soul. The urge to protect her from the darkness of death and loss grew stronger, but how could he advocate for her healing while grappling with the hollowness inside him? "Lily, sometimes the people we love can't come back," he said gently. But the plea felt inadequate. It was the truth he desperately wanted to shield her from, and yet her innocence deserved honesty. Her brow furrowed, and he could see the gears of realization turning behind her wide eyes, a computing face softened by both comprehension and heartache. He wondered how it was possible for a little girl to grasp the nuance of grief better than himself, a man who'd faced death head-on. The dissonance stung, sharpening his sense of inadequacy. "What if we honor them instead?" Jake suggested, a new resolve piercing his fog of uncertainty. "Let's create something beautiful, something alive, to remember them by." The image of a grand oak tree, resilient and commanding, floated to the forefront of his imagination. It embodied strength and echoing memories, standing tall against the rage of storms. Her small fingers hesitated, a whisper of doubt creeping into her expression. But isn't digging the only way to keep them close? Her confusion mirrored the struggle inside him. Did burying sorrow ever truly contain it, or did it fester beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to re-emerge? Think of it this way. Life grows through what we remember. We can keep their spirit alive through a tree that represents strength and survival, just like they would have wanted for you. He pressed, noticing the minute spark of curiosity lighting up her face. Jake felt a pulse of determination, an unyielding need to rise above his own darkness for Lily's sake. They were navigating this treacherous terrain together, and he realized that while he had fought for his brothers, he now had the chance to fight for healing, for both of them. But it also meant he needed to confront the past that still chained him, a daunting prospect filled with fear and confrontation. The tension between them, electric and transforming, morphed into something formidable. Together they were ready to unearth not just memories, but truths that both bound and liberated. He hadn't anticipated how profound this budding partnership would challenge him, but it was clear. His perspective was shifting, a newfound sense of purpose rising from the depths of his sorrow. Yet profound change didn't come without its shadows. Each revelation threatened to unveil truths he was reluctant to face. Would the quest for understanding lead him down a path that felt too overwhelming, too raw? With a determined breath, Jake prepared himself for the journey ahead. "We'll figure it out together," he reassured Lily. "We'll dig for their memory, but we'll do it differently." As she nodded resolutely, the two of them stood on the precipice of a transformation that promised to redefine both their lives. Jake felt on the verge of discovery, and as the lingering sunlight receded, he couldn't shake a chilling notion. What if unearthing the truth meant confronting the very demons that had haunted him since he returned home? A shiver ran through him, igniting the question that would lead to his next confrontation. Could he find the strength to face the ghosts of his past, while unearthing the strength lying dormant within them both? The following morning, Jake awoke to the chirping of birds, the brazen sunlight illuminating his small apartment like a spotlight on his inner turmoil. The shadows of the previous evening still lingered within him, both a haunting reminder and a spur to action. Plans formed in his mind. He needed to dig deep, not just into the earth, but into the recesses of his own mind, a terrain as rough and uncertain as any battleground. Lily's words echoed with an unsettling clarity as he prepared for their next meeting. Honor, instead of burial. It felt right, yet the enormity of the task weighed on Jake. How could he teach a child resilience when he felt his own backbone was made of scraps? The oak tree remained a constant image, something stable in a world full of uncertainty. Could he embody its strength while he struggled to find his footing? Determined to set a foundation for this new venture, Jake resolved to visit the local nursery that morning, the smell of fresh earth and budding greens promising a connection to life. He imagined choosing a sturdy sapling that could withstand the trials of wind and storm. With each step toward the nursery, he questioned what kind of tree symbolized both growth and remembrance. He wanted Lily to understand that each leaf fluttering in the breeze carried with it the spirits of those they wanted to honor. Pushing through the nursery's entrance, the aroma of damp soil enveloped him, triggering a wave of nostalgia. Here, life thrived in every shade of green, reminding Jake of all that was vibrant yet fragile. He moved through the aisles, touching blossoms and trailing his fingers over rough tree bark, searching for something that resonated within. Visions of an oak flashed before him, the gnarly roots, the sprawling canopy. But could he really nurture that which he could not nurture within himself? As he deliberated, a small pair of hands reached up from behind a display. "You should get that one," said a young voice, pulling him from his reverie. A girl about Lily's age stood there, her eyes glimmering with excitement. "It's perfect. It's not too big and the leaves are bright." Jake knelt down, intrigued. "What do you think it represents?" She tilted her head, pondering. "Hope. It's small now, but it'll grow big and strong like your sister wants." Sister. The simple word struck a chord, forcing a crack in the walls he'd constructed around his heart. He worked to mask the twinge of pain that came with every mention of family, one that still felt like an open wound in his memory. He struggled to engage, but she had unwittingly opened a door to reflection. "You're right," he finally admitted, standing taller in the process. "Hope is what we need." Together they selected a young oak tree. It was not the grand, unstoppable monument of his imagination yet, but a promise of potential. As Jake paid and prepared to leave, he realized that perhaps it wasn't merely his charge to foster growth in Lily, but also an opportunity for him to embrace his internal struggle and the possibility of healing. Later that afternoon, with the tree nestled securely in the back of his truck, Jake made his way to the park with a growing sense of purpose. He had plans, an outline of how to honor the past while birthing something fresh and hopeful. When he met Lily, the innocent smile on her face began to dissolve the remaining apprehension within him. As they discussed the tree, Jake sensed a stirring, a rekindling of something he'd buried deep beneath layers of grief and regret. "Let's plant it here, right in this spot." He indicated a patch of earth. "We can come back and visit it, watch it grow together." "Like a family," she exclaimed, eyes alight with a vision he hadn't truly grasped until now. In that moment, Jake realized the gravity of their new quest. They were not simply planting a tree. They were giving life to memories, forging connections, and redefining losses. Yet beneath the surface of their shared initiative lay unspoken fears. Would digging into the past help illuminate paths to healing, or merely unlock deeper wounds? With growing excitement mingled with gnawing doubt, Jake glanced at the tree and then at Lily. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the freshly turned earth, Jake felt a swell of determination rising within him, ready to face the ghosts he had avoided for too long. The time for revelation had arrived, but would he be ready for the truth that lay just beneath the surface? As the dusk settled over the park, an unsettling silence wrapped around Jake and Lily, a quiet foreboding that seemed to whisper warnings about the path ahead. He found himself assessing the oak they had just planted, its young leaves hardly rustling in the evening breeze. It was more than a tree now. It symbolized a shared commitment to facing their grief. Their discussion about the tree felt like a delicate thread connecting them, but Jake sensed deeper issues simmering beneath the surface. He remembered the intensity of Lily's gaze when she talked about her mother and brother. Was he prepared to confront all that lay entwined within those stories? Drawing a deep breath, Jake turned to Lily, his expression serious. "You know, planting this tree is just one part of what we have to do. We also need to talk about everything that's happened." Her eyes widened, innocent yet filled with the wisdom of experience far beyond her years. "Do you think they can hear us?" Jake's heart clenched. "I think when we talk to them, we keep their memories alive." With a tone steeped in hesitation, she replied, "But I don't know what to say." Her uncertainty revealed a vulnerability that struck him hard. She was not just a kid planting a tree. She was a child grappling with loss, her own fears mirrored in his thoughts. "Let's start small," he suggested. "Tell me one thing you loved about your mom." Lily pondered, and moments stretched as her brows furrowed in concentration. "She made the best pancakes, and she always sang to me while cooking." A brief smile crept onto Jake's face. It was the kind of warmth he felt was absent only moments before. He realized this was more than just a conversation. It was a fragile beginning, a chance to embrace the difficult truths they were both afraid to voice. "That sounds really sweet. I'm sure she loved making them for you." Jake began to feel a surge of responsibility. It was more than planting the oak, it was becoming a pillar for Lily. They would dig into the soil of remembrance together, and in those shared memories, he could finally uncover parts of himself long buried under the weight of loss. "Now you try," Lily encouraged, nodding vigorously. Jake hesitated, the struggle evident on his face. He could feel the shadows of his own grief creeping into the light. "When I think of my sister, I remember her laughter. It was like music on a bad day." Lily leaned in, her small hand resting against his arm. "We're like planting our memories." "Exactly, we are." The notion struck him with unexpected clarity. By cultivating these memories, they could reshape their communal grief into something resilient, a living tribute. In the back of his mind, Jake grew aware of a deep-rooted fear. Could he truly lead this delicate exploration while navigating his own unresolved feelings? The thought sent a shudder down his spine, but with each exchange, he felt the contours of clarity emerging. A strange but welcome surge of strength intertwined with his vulnerability. As they prepared to leave, the light of the setting sun framed their silhouettes against the horizon. It was a juxtaposition of light and dark, hope and despair. Jake felt both empowered and anxious, confronted with the reality that each memory they unearthed risked exposing an ache he had fought to suppress. With Lily at his side, Jake initiated what felt like an arduous journey toward healing. Did he have the courage to plunge into the depths of memory and grief, not only for Lily's sake, but for his own? They walked back to the truck, the oak tree growing smaller in the distance, and Jake understood that the real labor was just beginning. He was on the precipice of confronting an intricate web of emotions, uncharted pain, and buried strengths. Tomorrow would be another opportunity to dig deeper, but he couldn't shake the feeling that the next step would challenge everything he thought he understood about resilience and healing. As they drove away, a single question echoed in Jake's mind, resonating with a mix of eagerness and dread. Would revealing the truths of their past free them, or would it trap them further in the shadows? The following morning, Jake's heart raced as he drove Lily to the park again. The sun pierced through morning fog, casting a soft glow that felt promising. Yet, it stood in stark contrast to the turmoil spinning in his mind. Today was the day he would dive deeper into their memories, an endeavor that now seemed daunting. What if the revelations led them to spaces they were not ready to face? He tightened his grip on the steering wheel, clenching his jaw as uncertainty gnawed at him. Pulling into the park's lot, the familiarity jolted his mind to a different place. the wave of past laughter and shared moments mingling with silent apprehension. He stepped out, glancing at Lily playing with the hem of her shirt, her face a mixture of curiosity and expectation. Could he unlock the door to the grief they both carried without allowing it to swallow them whole? "Ready?" he asked, searching her face for signs of readiness. Lily nodded, determination etched in her small features. "I want to remember more about them." Her resolve unexpectedly fortified him. As they strolled toward the oak tree, Jake felt a deepening responsibility to create a safe space for Lily. "Let's talk about your brother today. What's one thing you miss the most?" She took a moment staring at the grass as if it held secrets of its own. "He used to pull me around on his skateboard. Even when he fell, he would laugh." Jake felt a pang in his chest. The warmth of the memory contrasted sharply with the heavy loss. It was a glimpse into joy now overshadowed. "What do you think he would say to you now?" he probed gently. Lily's brow furrowed, the earnestness of her thoughts evident. "He would say—" She hesitated, looking up at him with wide eyes. "He'd want me to be happy, like when we skated." Jake breathed deeply, admiration flooding him. "That's beautiful, Lily. Holding on to those memories means keeping his spirit alive. Would he want us to be sad?" "No," she said firmly, her conviction igniting something within him. Yet, his thoughts danced around his sister's laughter, and he couldn't help but wonder if he could truly follow through with this. When it was his turn to share, he hesitated again. The memories felt sharp. "My sister loved writing stories." A flood of memories swirled, so vivid that he could almost hear her voice. "She aimed to be an author, always telling me tales filled with imagination." As Lily listened, Jake's voice faltered slightly. "She had this way of taking our sadness and turning it into something beautiful." Lily's eyes sparkled with inspiration. "Let's write a story together, like your sister, about the oak tree." The idea hit him unexpectedly hard, urging a mixture of excitement and fear. While they could create a new narrative, it also put them at risk of further exposing their wounds. Yet, something in him recognized the necessity of this exercise, articulating grief as they transformed it into creativity. "Sure," he replied cautiously. "But it might be hard." "That's okay," she declared. "We need to dig, right? Dig for the happy parts." Jake found himself smiling, the weight of her innocence reminding him of the lightness in the midst of darkness. Engaging in collaborative healing felt essential. Could memories, once painful, become tools for growth? After they settled around the tree, armed with paper and colored pencils, silence enveloped them. It felt heavy and electric, filled with potential. He watched as Lily transformed her loss into words, every scrawl breathing life into their shared experience. Her childlike hope stirred something deep within him, like fragments of joy surfacing from an ocean of grief. As the sun began to rise higher, Jake's mind churned with possibilities. Not only did this writing project pave a way to remember loved ones, but it also cast light on his own buried grief, offering a freeing perspective. However, the deeper he delved into reminiscing, the more pressing questions loomed. Would they encounter untold truths, potentially disrupting their fragile connection? Just then, Lily looked up from her paper, eyes bright with wonder, and asked, "Do you really think they're watching?" Jake's heart stilled as he searched for words. It was time to confront that haunting question, an intersection of belief and vulnerability that might just redefine their journey toward healing. Would this path lead them toward solace, or deeper into emotional terrain they weren't prepared to traverse? As the weight of Lily's question hung in the air, Jake felt a stirring inside him, like a whisper coaxing memories from shadowy corners of his mind. "Do I think they're watching?" he echoed, momentarily lost in the depth of her inquiry. The innocent intensity of her gaze made him confront his own beliefs, those previously tucked away under the guise of maturity. "Well, I think maybe they are," he replied, feeling the uncertainty shift inside him. It was easier to talk about the past through the lens of the stories they would create together. To answer her directly felt like stepping onto a fragile bridge, one that could collapse beneath the weight of raw emotions. Lily nodded solemnly, her fingers still tangled in the colored pencils, but something about her expression hinted at a deeper understanding. Then we better make them proud, right? She turned back to her paper, scribbling with newfound fervor. Yeah, proud, he murmured. But internally he grappled with a heavier question. Could he even claim that for himself? The burden of uncertainty felt overwhelming, and in seeking to support Lily, he realized he must also navigate his own unprocessed grief. He gazed at the oak tree, its sprawling branches acting as a silent witness to their conversations unfolding beneath its guard. It struck him then how much he wanted this moment to mean something, for both of them. Each flourish of Lily's pencil echoed louder than the last. In a world where they had lost pieces of themselves, here was a chance to reclaim some joy. "Do you want to start telling the story of the oak tree?" Jake asked, attempting to steer them towards something concrete, a vessel for their feelings. "Okay." Her enthusiasm was palpable, pushing back against the heavy shadows of loss. As she launched into her imagination, Jake listened closely, recognizing not only the beauty of her creativity, but the vividness of her struggle. The oak tree took shape as a character, dense with life experiences reflecting their own. Facing the rawness of her emotions, he found an unanticipated sense of strength. Together, they painted a tapestry of whimsical adventures and poignant moments, each tale threaded with strands of grief and gleaming with the promise of resilience. The tears were tempered with laughter, as Lily described the tree sharing secrets with the wind or standing guard over every child that played near its trunk. Each line they created together stitched a measure of comfort into their hearts. But as realizations took root, so did the unsettling notion that in lifting these memories, they couldn't ignore what they lost brought forth. "Sometimes I wonder," he began, hesitating, but pushed himself onward. "What if digging into these memories makes us sad?" Lily stopped writing, her small brow furrowing. "But we need to dig to find the happy parts, right? Just like my brother would want," she countered, her voice steady and sure. Her wisdom struck him profoundly. She was looking to memory as a means of transformation, while he had been approaching it with dread. What if she was guiding him toward a different understanding of their grief? As they continued crafting their story, Jake felt a shift within. He wasn't just the caretaker anymore. He was also a participant in this journey. The scars on his heart could serve as an architect of hope rather than a weight. Just as they began to pen the tale of their oak tree's greatest adventure, a sudden gust of wind rustled through the leaves, creating a symphony of whispers that sent a chill down his spine. With uncertainty creeping back into his thoughts, he couldn't help but wonder if they were about to unearth something profoundly significant. "Lily," he said, biting back apprehension. "What if we discover something we're not ready to face?" Her eyes met his with an unyielding spark. "Then we face it together. That's what makes us strong." He took a deep breath, the air carrying the scent of impending exploration. Would she truly be able to handle the depths of unresolved pain? Or was this a pivotal moment that would bind them more tightly than ever? As they resumed writing, Jake sensed the weight of this collaboration. It might not just be a story, but a revelation that would reshape their path. He couldn't shake the feeling that with each word, each doodled drawing, they were skirting the edge of something bigger, something transformative. What were they about to uncover deep beneath the surface? With hearts mingled in creation, they ventured further into their narrative, a journey that whispered promises of healing, while lingering truths shadowed their path. Would the process of unveiling memories and transmuting them into art fortify their bond, or fracture it wide open? The next twist lay just beneath the surface, waiting for them to dig deeper. As the breeze whispered through the leaves, Jake felt an unusual tension coiling within him. Their story had begun to unfold with delightful whimsy, yet beneath the playful surface, an undercurrent of unresolved sorrow lurked dangerously close. With each stroke of Lily's pencil, he realized they were inching toward a precipice he hadn't fully prepared to confront. "Lily," he started, feeling a lump in his throat. "What if the stories we create lead us to remembering things we don't want to?" She paused, confusion flickering across her innocent face, then picked up her pencil again and continued drawing. The oak tree was no longer just a vessel. It had become a sanctuary for their fragmented memories. But if we don't remember, how can we know who we are? Her voice was small yet unwavering, a reminder that confronting their past could not only offer pain, but also clarity. Jake's heart raced as he contemplated her words. Could it be that memory held the keys to their healing? For so long he had pushed the sorrow away, choosing to be the stronghold rather than face the storm brewing inside himself. But perhaps, just maybe, by sharing this journey with Lily, he could redefine what loss meant. He could transform it. Taking a breath, he looked again at Lily, who was now deeply engrossed in her drawing. The way she poured her energy into the narrative provided a lifeline for Jake, igniting an awareness that this storytelling was a shared burden, a joint venture of catharsis. Perhaps in her fearless exploration, he would find courage to unveil his own grief. "Okay, let's dig deeper," he said firmly, surprising himself with the resolve in his voice. "But we have to promise to be honest about what we find. No sugarcoating this." Lily looked up with wide eyes, her trust palpable. "Okay, I promise," she said seriously, her childlike spirit undeterred by the gravity of the moment. They began to explore the events surrounding the oak tree's largest branches, entwining their own histories with that of the mythical tree. Jake spoke of summer days spent climbing the gnarled bark, laughing with childhood friends, blissfully ignorant of the trials to come. Lily, however, shifted the narrative in an unexpected direction. "What if a storm came, and the tree had to fight to survive?" she suggested, her gaze steady. "Then the tree would have to be brave, and it would take shelter in its strong roots," Jake said, finding strength in her analogy. It was as if each idea took root in their conversation, pushing both of them to confront the elements of their lives that had been swept away in the currents of grief. "And if the storm took away some branches?" Lily asked softly, her expression contemplative. "It would still stand tall, a little more fragile," he answered, the thought pulling at his heart. "But it would grow new branches, adapt, and keep sheltering those who needed it." As they crafted this parallel story, Jake felt the walls he had built around his heart beginning to tremble. This wasn't just Lily's creative outlet, it was an excavation, a necessary journey toward reclaiming joy amidst sorrow. Just when he thought they might be free of the pain of their reflections, Lily spoke again, her voice a mixture of innocence and wisdom. "If we dig deep enough, do you think we'll see my brother again?" Here lay the question that thrust the weight of reality upon him. The truth hung in the air, looming over them like the branches of the oak silhouetted against the setting sun. Was it possible to confront the essence of loss while seeking closure? Jake hesitated, uncertainty clawing at the edges of his resolve. "I think it's possible to feel them in our hearts, to carry those memories like treasures." Her eyes sparkled with understanding and hope, yet the fragility of the moment ignited a curiosity he hadn't anticipated. Would they uncover buried treasures in the depths of their grief? Or would the unveiling reveal shadows too dark to embrace? With every intention to brave the winding road ahead, Jake tightened his grip on the pencil, prepared to take another leap into their story. But how far were they willing to go in search of healing? And what would happen when the truth they sought came knocking at their door? The winds began to pick up again, stirring the leaves with urgency, suggesting that momentum was building toward an inevitable revelation. Would their collaboration lead to catharsis, or would it unearth secrets best left untouched? The atmosphere grew heavy with unspoken fears as the twilight deepened around them, filling the air with a palpable tension. Jake realized he had misjudged that moment of vulnerability when they had been sifting through the layers of their shared story. He was trying to navigate grief, but Lily's innocent question had plunged him into deeper waters, far beyond his emotional preparedness. "Digging to bury," he murmured, the gravity of her words weighing on him. In that instant, he understood that while he was searching for treasure, she was unearthing an entirely different reality, one filled with loss, not just an idealistic endeavor of healing. "Lily, why would you want to bury them?" Jake asked, his voice firm yet gentle, probing into her fragile psyche while trying to maintain a sense of safety. He needed to bring her thoughts into the light, and yet trepidation gnawed at him. What if he opened a door that couldn't be closed? With a flick of her pencil against the page, Lily's brow furrowed, her innocence giving way to a spark of something darker. "Because if I bury them deep enough, they might not have to hurt anymore," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The truth of it clashed violently with Jake's belief that confronting the pain was the path to healing. His heart thrummed angrily in his chest, caught between protecting this child and confronting his own demons. In the silent storm swirling within him, he saw a choice emerge: to either succumb to despair or decide that this moment could serve as a catalyst for growth, both for him and for her. "Lily, I know it feels overwhelming, but shoving away our memories can't erase the love we hold for them," he said, trying to steady his own fear as he continued. "Instead, what if we honor them? By sharing our stories, we can keep them alive in our hearts." Her eyes widened momentarily, confusion re-emerging, yet he could see a glimmer of understanding taking root. This realization ignited something inside Jake. The seed of a new strategy emerged. He realized he had to become her guide, navigating her through this emotional labyrinth. As they resumed drawing, he let his mind roam free, weaving memories with intent. What if the branches of the oak tree represented the love we still have? Even if the storm takes away the physical forms of those we've lost, their love lives on through us, he suggested, feeling the weight of his words coursing through their shared narrative. "Can we draw that?" she asked, her voice lighter now, filling him with a sense of urgency to guide her through this murky emotional terrain. "Absolutely," he replied, feeling invigorated by her burgeoning interest. They began sketching together, transforming their sorrow into hope. Even as they penned grief into art, he sensed the latent resilience rising within him, the dual roles of mentor and student intertwining before him. Yet, in the midst of building their homage, Jake felt the walls around his own heart stifling him, prompted by the very vortex they were trying to navigate. What memories buried nugget by nugget inside him were still powerful enough to resurface? He could feel the stirring of his own concealed grief, just beneath the fragile surface of this moment. As the final rays of sunlight faded, casting shadows that danced alongside their drawing, Jake realized the impending confrontation loomed near. What was he willing to face, both for himself and for Lily? The truth might just fracture the delicate bond they were forging, turning catharsis into chaos. "Lily, I need to tell you something," Jake said cautiously, the weight of revelation looming large, threatening to propagate or fracture what they had built together. In that uncertain pause, a single question crossed his mind, flickering like a candle in the wind. The moment begged for truth, for connection. What if sharing the depths of his sorrow could elevate her own journey instead of erasing it? The night darkened around them, amplifying the tension. What would they unearth together? And could he bear the truths he held at bay for far too long? He took a deep breath, prepared to delve into the fragile contours of loss and belief. Would this openness lead to liberation or peril? The answer lay just within reach, teetering on the brink of confrontation. As Jake looked into Lily's eyes, he felt a warrior's resolve blossom within him. The memories he had long buried began to teeter, ready to spill forth. "You see, Lily," he began, his voice steady despite the racing of his heart. "Every time we remember them, we create a special place for them to live on. It's okay to feel sad sometimes, but what we shouldn't do is forget." Lily listened intently, absorbing his words like a sponge. "So, it's like they're always with us when we remember?" she asked, her small face lifting with curiosity. "Exactly. It's like planting seeds of love," Jake continued, an urgency propelling him. "Those seeds need nurturing just like the oak tree. If we refuse to water them with our memories, then we risk letting them wither away. We can plant those seeds right here, and they can grow into something beautiful that represents our love for them." The acknowledgement in her eyes exchanged the innocence of grief for a glimmer of understanding. For the first time, Jake felt the shadows within him start to shift. It was a cathartic moment, standing on the edge of revelation, an awakening that filled the air with new possibilities. He leaned forward and picked up a pencil, feeling an exuberance surge through him. "Let's write a story for them. We can create a legacy that embodies their spirit." With newfound clarity, he flowed onto the page, weaving his thoughts into tangible words. sketching their collective grief and memories into vibrant stories. As he began to articulate his own sister's courage, her laughter, and her passion for storytelling, Jake found a rhythm. Each word felt like a release, and he found himself emerging from the haze of his wounds, determined to pass on that resilience to Lily. She watched in rapture, her innocence shining brightly against the backdrop of their shared pain. After several moments he paused, looking at Lily's engaged expression. "Now tell me more about your brother. What stories make you smile?" He encouraged her, his voice gentle yet firm. Lily's face lit up as she shared about her brother's adventures, how he used to climb the tallest trees and laugh at the clouds. Each tale wiped away some of the desolation lingering between them, planting fresh seeds of joy amidst their grief. And as Lily spoke, Jake could see the burden of sorrow weight lifting from her shoulders, replaced by a resolve to honor their loved ones. It illuminated a path that he, too, could tread. Their stories became intertwined, a testament to the lives they had cherished but lost. Jake recognized that by honoring his sister, he wasn't just becoming the guide Lily needed, but he was reclaiming his own history. Observing her smile as she crafted the narrative filled him with an overwhelming warmth, igniting a flicker of hope inside him. One he had feared was extinguished forever. As they dug deeper, Jake guided her. "Remember, Lily, this oak tree can endure storms, but it also needs sunlight to thrive," he explained. "So we must keep sharing these beautiful moments, even when it feels difficult." Lily looked thoughtful, then nodded. "I want them to know we're happy, just like you said. This story is our way of remembering them." With each additional word, each memory brought to the surface, a cathartic metamorphosis blossomed within Jake. The heaviness lifted. Finally, as dusk settled around them and the stars began to peek through the blanket of night, Jake closed the notebook filled with their collective tales. "This is only the beginning. We can keep coming back, digging deeper whenever you need. Exploring more memories to help your heart grow," he promised, wrapping his arm around her in a protective gesture. As they sat together on that park bench, a profound silence enveloped them, yet the burdens they bore now felt lighter. Jake saw Lily beaming, radiating clarity and purpose, unencumbered by the darkness that had previously perched on her shoulders. "Thank you, Jake," she softly praised. "You helped me remember them in a good way." His heart swelled. He had finally allowed the buried truths to surface and transform, turning pain into a garden of memories. Jake knew that he would keep planting those memory seeds, allowing them to flourish inside him as well as in Lily, nurturing an unwavering sense of hope and healing. He had transformed guilt and despair into an established position of empathy and strength. In guiding Lily through her grief, he had wound the roots of recovery deeper within himself. With that, under the vast constellation-sprinkled sky, Jake and Lily rose, ready to face whatever came next, empowered, renewed, and connected forever through the stories and memories they held dear. In doing so, they had achieved something extraordinary together, an irreplaceable bond nurtured by shared grief and a commitment to live on in remembrance. And amidst that triumph, Jake found a safe harbor within himself, a testament to personal growth, solid confidence, and unwavering resolve in the face of life's challenges. And now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will capture your heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes all the difference. Comment below with your reactions and insights about this conclusion. We're eager to hear your thoughts. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this uplifting conclusion. Together, we can continue to inspire and uplift one another.